Welcome to the Salty Seekers, where you can hang out with friends and talk about all areas of spirituality and the metaphysical while knowing you don't have to be pure love and light to do it. Welcome back to the Salty Seeker. This week we are talking about labels. Humans love a label. The question is, do labels matter? What do you think?
I don't know. What do we mean by labels? This is about spiritual labels. So some of us, like myself, I was guilty of this. This is ego, pure ego. You start down this path and then you're like, what am I? Am I clairsentient? Am I a medium? For me, I got off track. I got off track really bad because rather than just being appreciative, living in the moment, I was just spending so much time trying to figure this out. I don't know about you. What was your initial experience with this?
I think that that's common to humans, to humanity, because like I said, humans love a label. Humans have this innate need to organize things, say, okay, this is this, I know this, so I'm going to put this label on it and I'm going to put it in that box. They organize time, they organize people, they love a label. And I am no different, especially when you start this journey, you're like wanting to figure everything out and like, okay, so am I this? Am I that? Like you said. And, it's like, am I Wiccan? Am I pagan? Am I spiritualist? You hear all these terms, you hear mystic, you hear all the things and you're like, well, what am I? What are you? How do I do that? And no, I don't think it matters.
Oh, I agree. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I'll share my story. You've heard this story before, but I'll recant it for this. I went so deep into this rabbit hole that I guess I had pushed too far, or I was just so far off track. We were talking about spirit guides earlier. And this is one of the strongest clairaudience, non-internal clairaudience that I had ever received and still have to this day. I woke up in the middle of the night and I just heard a title or, I heard something and I was like, is that a book? And just clear as day, yes, it is. And so immediately I grabbed my phone, got on Amazon, and I found this book. And basically it's a synopsis of 5 Gothic texts. And so you go through this book, and this book is like really way over my head. I had to have the dictionary out.
That's what I was thinking when you
Constantly.
said that. I was like, how did you read that? Sounds really
With the
dry.
dictionary, I learned lots of new words. But anyway, so the first story was really this. It was an ever-growing house, and the house just constantly, the hallways kept moving and shifting, and this guy and his team basically drove themselves crazy and lost their lives trying to qualify and quantify something that couldn't be. And each story was something similar about identities and how you identify yourself and how it's almost folly at times. And by the end of the book, I had realized, yeah, they're pointing out at me. He's like, stop worrying so much. Stop worrying about,
Yeah.
am I a psychic medium or am I a psycho extra thick or, whatever my label is today. And just be happy with the experience. Just, enjoy it.
Yeah, that's so hard, especially in the beginning. Like in the last episode, I think we talked about how certain things that can happen when you first start to wake up and how you can just be really ungrounded with it all. You're just a little like spiritually manic. You're just like, ooh, I want all the things. And um, with that, you want to figure out what's what. It's really hard to have a grounded, calm, just stay in the flow mentality. But really, that's what you need to do. And during our Zoom call earlier for our membership, we were talking about how many times over the years I get comments or messages from people wanting to talk about my journey in witchcraft, like, well, when you first became a witch, blah, blah, blah. And that used to, I wouldn't say offend me. Offend is not the right word, but I was in big time resistance to that label. And I was like, I'm not a witch. And I think it was leftover stuff that needed deconstructed from the church still. And the label had such a connotation to me of what are people going to think? Because so many people have assigned a negative connotation to that. And now, as I've gone on and I realize that, like, much of what I do could very easily fit into that witch box, into that witch label. I still don't ascribe to any one label. I am a little bit of everything, but much of what I do could very well be described as being a witch, particularly a hearth witch or a green witch. And so now I'm not so resistant to that label. I'm not so put off by it that I react in any kind of a negative way. I'm just like, okay. Because I can easily see how that happens, and I'm actually kind of owning it a little bit as well. I'm resistant now to the fact of putting myself in just one box. I can label myself as a witch, as a mystic, as a spiritualist, like of all kinds of things, not only one label. And that to me is why labels don't matter so much, is because I don't want to be pinned down and put in a box. I want to be free flowing and ever developing, because that's what your spiritual journey is supposed to be.
So I've never been accused of being a witch. I don't really know. I guess I don't share that side of me a lot with the people around me. So they don't see that. So I don't get those comments. I guess, where I live, yeah, you get the Bible Belt area. So I don't go around talking about it a great deal because,
Yeah.
it's the devil. You'll get that kind of reaction with some of these. So I do me, I stay quiet. I do my meditations, and sometimes I help people if I can, but typically, I don't go out of my way to share that. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe I need to work on, I do
Yeah.
need to share that. That's one of those up for debate. How much do I really want to interact with, me, people?
Well, I wouldn't say that well, you know what? I take that back. Yes, I am. I was going to say, I don't think I'm terribly out loud with it here in my personal life, but yeah, I am. Maybe not with my neighbors and stuff that are like right here, but I'm sure they see some shit. They see me carrying all my crystals out in the full moon, and they see me drawing sigils underneath my welcome mat, or, my front door mat. And the first of the month, every month, I'm going out there blowing cinnamon through the door and washing it down and whatnot. They see some stuff if they pay attention. But see, that's the thing, and that's what I mean. I've always done that kind of stuff. Like, get a bowl full of water and put rosemary and basil and lavender and all the beautiful things, and like wash down my door on the first of every month in order to welcome in peace and protection and thing. I blow cinnamon through. I do all the things that witches would do, but I was always like, that's not me. Yeah, it is. But I think that I nailed it when I said that I'm resistant to having any one label. Because even in witchcraft, there are just as many types of witches as there are religions in the world, or even people in the world. Like, every single person's practice is a little bit different. It doesn't look the
I
same.
would say
So,
the same thing about the religions. In one specific religion, everybody in there practices it a little different. They interpret it a little different. They pray a little different. I mean,
yeah, exactly. And I think in this day and age, anyone who has a judgment or a negative connotation with a label such as witch, for example, since we're on that topic, or if they act dismissively towards my beliefs and are like, that's just woo woo, that's a bunch of woo woo garbage and stuff like that. All that tells me is that they have never taken the time to look into the stuff or educate themselves on the stuff. And, because dismissing it like that it's really the low hanging fruit. It's the easiest thing to pull down in order to act in a dismissive way of someone else's beliefs. And all that tells me is that they've never taken the time to educate themselves. And so that tells me more about them and their character than it tells me about my belief system.
they say agnostic atheist. That's another one of their labels towards people who don't believe it as they do, and whether it's you just don't believe in anything, or you believe as a witch, or you're following the devil, or whatever it is you're doing. I don't know. Maybe it's their fear, or sometimes people just want to feel like they can lord over others.
Mhm.
I believe in this and you don't. So
Yeah, most religions tend to be very narcissistic. Like, if you don't believe my way, then you're wrong. And I'm like, believe whatever makes you happy. Believe whatever you feel shifts you closer to the divine or to God or whatever it is that you want to call that creator being. Do you, and let me do
so
me.
labels in general, it's a hard thing for any one person to shed, because when you come into this world, you're just one label after another. You come in and I'm a boy.
Yeah,
I'm
instantly.
an American. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan now. And you just keep piling on the labels throughout your life. And, I had that deep reflection after I read that book. It's like, I have a crap load of labels that I self identify with. But reality is, that wasn't when I got here. And and I added, I'm not saying I'm just saying these are all piled on to me, whether I embrace them or you inherit them from family. But what I always find is you are looking up, who was looking up to somebody. And that's how some of them beliefs and labels came down. Can you unwrap that? Can you unravel it? Not that you need to or don't need to, it's personal choices. But some of the things aren't great for you, or some of the things aren't great. Can you learn to unravel that label and let it go?
I think it's definitely worth taking a look at them for sure. Like, is this a label worth
Like a
keeping?
Cleveland Browns fan, I mean, after a
Does
while,
this
you
not
really
fit
gotta
me?
let that go. You cry every year.
No, no, that is one that will die with me.
I
Like
said that
no.
there was a joke in a magazine, an old person, I forget, man or woman, and their obituary wrote, "I want the Cleveland Browns to, pallbearers to lower her so they could let her down one more time."
What's funny is that, I mean, to me, that just shows the fundamental loyalty of this area. Like, we ride hard for people, and we kind of expect them to let us down every year because that's how they roll typically. But man, we love them
Oh, no,
and we won't give
not only
up.
it was just an example of, not all are bad, not all are good. But we inherited them. Like your dad or your mom was a Cleveland Browns fan, his and his and his, and that's how we get packed on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Absolutely, you're right. And that's why when I started this journey, like I shared on the last episode, if you haven't listened to that, please go find it. It's worth it. That when I started this journey, I gave myself permission to throw out every single thing that I had ever been taught or told to believe in, every label I had been handed. I laid it all down and I started from scratch. And I slowly built a new belief system. The thing is that, like, that belief system changes all the time, which is another reason I don't like labels, because sometimes I believe something and then I learn something else and my belief shifts just a little bit. It's an ever evolving, extremely nuanced set of beliefs and a practice that I have. And it's constantly changing and growing as I do. So that's why anybody who dismisses things, it just tells me that they haven't taken the time to speak with me or to get to know any of this stuff.
You learn as you go, and what you know to be true now may not be true next week. It doesn't mean you're wrong now. It just means you
Right.
didn't learn it. You weren't there yet, and you're moving forward. You know what you know right now, and you're at the best you can be right now, and you'll continue to grow and continue to try.
Uh-huh. Right. Like, and it's funny how we can be so much more comfortable with some labels than others. For a long time, when I would be like, no, 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 I'm not a witch, I'd be like, well, I mean, I'm kind of drawn to pagan stuff. So, I mean, I could probably say I'm pagan. I was so much more comfortable with the term pagan
Well,
than
that comes from the
witch.
fear placed on it by
It
other
does.
religions. I mean, they turn it into their boogie person.
Mm-hmm.
In any group of people, there's bad people that make them look, that way. But I think that's where your trepidation on that is you grew up church and, so
Yeah. And it wasn't even so much now that I believed still from the church that it was a negative thing. It was more of a, what are people going to think of me if I call myself type of thing. And now I'm just like, and what you gonna do about it? But yeah, I'm a little bit of everything. But as you mentioned earlier, this can apply to all areas of this journey. It can apply to what gifts you have, or do you consider yourself a psychic or a medium or a channeler or it's just all the labels. There's so many labels, and it's up to you if you pick them or not. But like, do they matter at the end of the day? No. It can be really hard to distinguish between what clairs you're using. Sometimes people are like, did you get that clairvoyantly or clairaudiently or claircognizantly? And I'm like, it's a little of all of them, because it's like I hear the word, I see the message, I kind of get information about it. It's like a whole mishmash. I don't know how to label that. And you don't have to. It just let it
we had
flow.
that conversation. I struggled with that. It's like, how did I get that? And, we've had that talk. Yeah, that's where I've had to come to that point of just give up control on it. Enjoy the experience.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Give up control and enjoy the experience. Just stay in the flow. And I mean, sometimes it's nice to be able to identify, like, oh, I heard that word in my head. That must have been clairaudience, or you know what I mean? Or I saw a little orb. Oh my goodness, is my clairvoyance developing? So it can be helpful sometimes to have a label, but no, they're not necessary. They don't really matter. You have to release it and let it go and stay in the flow. That's what's most important, just to stay in the moment and enjoy what's happening right now and forget about everything else. Because, most things in life are morally neutral. Like they have no meaning to them. They have no value to them until you place a meaning and a value on them. Like we all decide what kind of a connotation something has to us. The important thing is to stay in the moment and to allow yourself to flow and not worry about what other people think at the end of the day. I know that, as I mentioned earlier, my belief system is really nuanced. I've worked hard and I've done a lot of shadow work and I've done a lot of meditation and I've strived to practice this stuff day after day after day for years in order to better myself as a human being and to expand my gifts and to heal so that I am a better, more useful, helpful human being. And I consider myself a light worker. I consider myself a world changer because it's not only my heart's desire, but I feel like it's my mission to destroy systems of oppression against people who aren't being treated well, people of color, women, children, etc. I want to see those systems end in this world. I want to teach people how to work in unison and co-create a reality for themselves by working with the divine and working with Mother Nature and with the natural things that are given to us here on the earth, such as herbs and crystals and moonlight and things like that. So as you can see, there's a lot to that, and it's hard to place one label, but any of those labels can be applied to me and I would be okay with it. So I guess we can also talk about what labels are we okay with? Do you have any labels that you're okay with?
Girl dad. I am okay being a girl dad. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, I'm a girl mom.
I mean, there's many, like Cleveland Brown fan. It's a great label. So I know there are neutral labels, and you could debate on whether, I guess it's point of view, really. If you think something's bad, that's really point of view.
Yeah.
Because what I consider bad, you might consider good.
I think that's the takeaway. I think that's what I want people to take away from this at the end of the day is that, do they really matter? Absolutely not. Throw them out if you don't like them. But you have to be okay with labels that are okay with you. You have to decide, what am I okay with? And then you just have to learn to be okay with it and forget what anybody else thinks. Fuck them all. Like, who cares what they think? And don't carry their shame. Don't carry their ignorance. Don't carry their judgment, because all of that is theirs. It's theirs to carry, return to sender. That's not yours. Your job is to stay in the moment and to stay in the beautiful energy that you are cultivating in your life and to follow what feels right, step after step after step. And that might look a little bit different day after day as your steps pivot one way or another. And that's okay too. Just as labels no longer fit you. I mean, I used to have labels like wife. It's not care.
I like labels. I mean, first it was the medium label, and it didn't fit me, so I had to go to the large, and then the extra large label.
Yeah, there was once upon a time I was a medium too, yeah. As the labels no longer fit you, toss them out. And if you pick up a new label and go, I like this. I think I'm going to put this on for a little while and see how it fits. Do that. Do what feels right to you. And if you're like, I don't like any label, I don't want to be called anything, I just want to do me day after day, I am just in the flow, that's okay too. Yeah. I'm okay with being called light worker. I'm okay with being called a healer. I'm okay even being called woo-woo, because let's face it, some shit I believe is some pretty woo-woo shit. But to me, it's not. To me, it's reality. I believe in this stuff. To the outside people, which, you know what? The world's catching up with me, because for years I've been like, it was aliens. I'm telling you. I talked to them last night. It was the aliens. And they're like, you believe in aliens? Oh my God. Now even Congress admits that like the aliens are everywhere. They're here to help us. Real life is catching up with my belief system, and suddenly it's not so woo-woo. Hello.
Yeah, especially with the spiritual
That's
labels. Do your research when you're first coming in this and understand how they're defined, but also understand they don't have to define you. Don't let them define you. Just be you,
right.
stay in the flow. And I keep coming back to this, but this is just my experience. Gratitude. Appreciate
Yeah.
what you get to experience because there's some neat stuff. And, for me, some of the neatest stuff, it doesn't happen
So
every day,
neat.
but boy, am I happy when it does. It's like, well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, when it does. So cool. Yeah, it's a good point that you made about doing your research because, for example, when I started looking at this, like, well, could I be a witch? I mean, because there's so many different kinds. There's like, oh God, I couldn't even begin to name them all. There's so many kinds. I kept hearing about this kind called chaos witch, and from what a couple people like on TikTok had said, like you kind of cherry pick from each kind. And I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like me. Let me look a little bit into this. Then it turns out that it's this whole doctrine or belief system with rules and everything else that was created by this guy. I'm like, if you're a chaos witch, God bless you. I mean, go for it. But it once I looked into what it actually meant, it no longer fit me at all. And I was like, no, 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 no. And I laid it right back down, picked it up and set it right back down. So do your research and look into it. And if it resonates, try it on for a minute. If you don't like it, return it.
No, it doesn't define you.
No, it does not define you. All right, you guys, this was a short and sweet one. We just wanted to have a little chit chat about the labels. So, takeaways, no, they don't matter. Try them on and take them back off if they don't fit. Do a little research to see if there's something you like and something that still resonates. And there's nothing you can't turn back from. Your labels may change over time. And at the end of the day, it's nobody else's business and their opinions are their own. Don't pay attention to what people say and don't let them put any of their shame or judgment onto you for any label you choose. And if you choose to not want any labels, that's okay too. All right, let us know. Leave us a comment, send us an email, drop us a line. We have our phone number that we will put in the show notes if you want to call and leave a comment, if you want to send us a text. You know how to find us. You know how to get in contact. Let us know what you think. And if you have any show ideas for next time,
You're
send
loved
them our way.
and appreciated.
You are loved and appreciated. All right, you guys, until next time.